Every great idea dies the same way. Not through failure, not through lack of faith, but through careless talk. The greatest men of history, Edison, Ford, Carnegie, Rockefeller, all obeyed a silent law. Guard your plans until they are strong enough to stand alone. For words are power, and power when exposed too soon is stolen, doubted or destroyed by the weak minds that cannot understand it. You may think you are sharing, but in truth you may be scattering. You may believe you are being open when in reality you are bleeding energy through every conversation. Few men ever realize how many of their dreams have been buried not by the enemy without, but by the friend within. The friend who could not keep his own mouth shut. The moment you speak of your goal to one who does not believe, you invite their fear into your faith. And fear is contagious. It poisons desire faster than failure ever could. I tell you this as law. Every time you talk idly of your plans, your mind believes you have already acted, and so it relaxes. You lose the burning desire that compels action. You trade fire for comfort, decisiveness for approval, faith for opinion. If you have ever wondered why your best ideas fade before they are born, this may be the reason. You have scattered your purpose to those unworthy to carry it. But I do not speak here against all sharing. There is a sacred kind of sharing. The kind practiced within a mastermind where every word multiplies power instead of leaking it. Where faith is fed, not questioned. Where men speak, not to impress, but to align. That is what you must learn to discern. And that is what I will show you before this lesson ends. You see, there is a difference between expression and exposure. The man of power expresses his thought to those who can strengthen it. The man of weakness exposes his thought to those who will wound it. One builds momentum, the other loses it. In the next few moments, I will show you the signs that reveal whether you've been protecting your purpose or poisoning it. But before we arrive there, you must understand why this principle is sacred. Every great plan begins in the realm of thought. It is fragile there and invisible, unproven, still forming. To the untrained ear, it sounds like fantasy. To the doubter, it sounds like arrogance. To the small mind, it sounds impossible. But to those who walk by faith, it is law in its earliest form. A decree issued to the universe, waiting only for your persistence to bring it forth. When you speak that law to unbelief, it weakens. When you repeat it to the wrong audience, it dissolves. When you brag of what you will do, your subconscious believes you have already done it. And so the desire cools, the hunger fades, the energy vanishes. This is why the majority live and die full of unfinished plans. They have spent their power in conversation instead of creation. They talk when they should act. They boast when they should act. They boast when they should build. They announce when they should observe. And yet, there is a higher law. There is a place where words multiply faith instead of draining it. A place called the mastermind. Here and only here may you speak your dream aloud. For there it is received by minds that believe. In that circle, criticism becomes correction. Envy becomes cooperation. And your thought is nourished by the collective intelligence of men moving toward the same horizon. Outside of that circle, silence is gold. Within it, speech is creation. And your task is to know the difference. If you have ever wondered why some men seem to move faster, why their ideas attract allies while yours attract doubters, this is the reason. They speak only where faith can hear. They reveal only what is already built within. Remember this. Energy must be directed, not displayed. Every time you seek validation through talk, you rob yourself of victory through action. Every time you seek validation through talk, you rob yourself of victory through action. Every time you explain your plan to those who cannot see, you invite confusion into your conviction. Your vision was not given to them. It was given to you. It is sacred property, not public opinion. Guard it as such. After this lesson, you will possess a rare ability, the ability to analyze your own speech and know whether you are feeding or draining your power. You will learn to feel when a conversation strengthens your purpose and when it dilutes it. You will know when silence is strength and when words are command. Most men never develop that sense. They mistake talk for progress. They believe movement of the tongue equals movement of destiny. But destiny does not answer noise. It answers definite tests. Ask yourself, how many of your goals have you killed with conversation? How many times have you announced your intent, received a compliment, and then never followed through? How many times have you let the judgment of others cause you to abandon an idea that once burned in your soul? The crowd does not destroy the dreamer through malice, but through mediocrity. They will drown your fire in their doubts, not out of hatred, but out of habit. And if you are careless, their disbelief will become your own. Silence is not secrecy, it is protection. Speech is not sharing, it is power. And when used with purpose, when this lesson is finished, you will be able to measure your words as the wealthy measure gold, not by quantity, but by worth. You will see that silence is the shield of the wise, and that the man who guards his plans guards his destiny. I will show you the difference between speech that strengthens and speech that destroys, between talk that builds empires and talk that buries them, between the voice of the master builds empires and talk that buries them, between the voice of the mastermind and the noise of the multitude. But before we reach that point, promise yourself this, that you will no longer speak idly of your dreams, that you will no longer trade faith for validation, that you will no longer explain to those who cannot understand. The world will know your plan soon enough when it becomes visible through results. Until then, speak little, act much, and remember, a wise man counts his words as a banker counts his gold. Your silence is not weakness. It is strength under command. And after this message, you will know exactly how to use it. The first sign, you speak to be praised, not to be understood. There is a weakness that has ruined more men than failure, more dreams than poverty, more plans than ignorance, the hunger to be praised before one has earned it. Every man is born with the desire to prove his worth. But when that desire is fed by applause, prove his worth. But when that desire is fed by applause before achievement, the fire that should drive him dies in its own smoke. Words of approval are sweet, but they are poison when taken too soon. Every time you speak of what you intend to do, you feed the illusion that you have already done it. The subconscious mind, unable to distinguish between talk and work, relaxes. It believes progress has been made, and so the very act of telling another what you will do becomes the reason you never do it. You created the satisfaction of accomplishment for the counterfeit comfort of praise. Talk is counterfeit action. It is the noise of intention without the substance of labor. The man who spends his energy describing his dreams leaves none for their construction. Each word of premature talk drains the reservoir of persistence that could have built an empire in silence. The wise man knows that words are tools, not toys. He uses them sparingly, for he knows their weight. The moment you seek validation for your plans, you divide your energy. Half goes toward creation, the other half toward convincing others. One builds, the other dissipates. The man of purpose does not ask, "What will they think of me?" but rather, "What must I think of myself if I do not act?" Approval is the tax the weak pay to feel strong. Thomas Edison understood this law better than most. When he set out to create the electric light, he did not announce his plan. Understood this law better than most. When he set out to create the electric light, he did not announce his plan to the world. He told no one how many failures he had met, no one how close he was to success. While others talked of impossibility, he worked in silence. For years, his lab was his world and his secret. He understood that progress made in solitude builds power. Progress spoken too soon builds spectators. Edison's silence was not secrecy, it was protection. He guarded his thought from disbelief, as a gardener shields his seed from frost. He knew that criticism, however small, could cool the heat of conviction. Faith grows in warmth, not in argument. He never sought applause until the work was done, for he knew that early praise weakens the will to persist. There is a spiritual law hidden in this truth. No man can receive the full reward of his labor until he has learned to labor in silence. The fire of desire burns hottest in private. Each time you expose it to the wind of others' opinions, it flickers and fades. Talk is the breeze that cools the flame. Work is the bellows that strengthens it. You may think that sharing your goals will make you accountable. It will not. It will make you dependent. You will begin to work not for the joy of accomplishment, but for the applause of others. You will measure progress by compliments, not completion. And the day praise ceases, so will your effort. The inner satisfaction of creation is far greater than the outer applause of explanation. The man who acts in silence lives in power. The man who seeks praise lives on borrowed energy. Applause cannot build habit. Only discipline can. When you learn to do your work for the sake of the work itself, you become master of your will. Ask yourself, why do I speak of my intentions? Is it to strengthen them or to soothe myself? The truth will reveal your motive. Most men speak not from confidence, but from fear. They hope that approval will replace faith. But faith cannot be borrowed. It must be built through action. The wise man delays speech until speech becomes unnecessary, for his results speak in his place. The desire for validation is a speak in his place. The desire for validation is a thief disguised as a friend. It flatters the ego while robbing the will. It gives comfort in exchange for progress. The weak man craves to be seen. The strong man craves to be certain. The one talks to prove himself. The other acts to become himself. Do not mistake silence for loneliness. Silence is strength under command. It is the mark of self-rust. The man who knows his direction does not shout it from the rooftops. He walks it. His footsteps are his testimony. The noise of the crowd neither adds to nor subtracts from his certainty. I have observed men whose ideas were great, whose ambitions were noble, whose energy was vast, yet they achieved nothing. Why? Because they scattered their power through words. Each conversation about their purpose diluted it. Each compliment they received became a substitute for effort. They built castles of speech instead of structures of stone. The wise for effort. They built castles of speech instead of structures of stone. The wise man treats his purpose as sacred. He feeds it with thought, waters it with persistence, and guards it from premature exposure. He does not throw it before the careless or the curious. He reveals it only when its fruits are ready to feed others. To speak too soon is to invite theft, not partnership. Praise is borrowed sunlight. It warms for a moment but cannot sustain growth. The light of self-respect earned through silent effort endures. The light of self-respect earned through silent effort endures. The man who delays praise until completion multiplies his satisfaction, for he receives it twice. Once from within, once from without. Every act of boasting is a small betrayal of faith. It tells the subconscious, I have arrived, when in truth, the journey has not begun. Guard yourself against this illusion. Hold your vision inward until it has matured into form. Speak of your results when they exist, not before. If you must talk, talk to yourself. Replace idle speech with inner command. Say quietly, I will act today. I will build today. I will work while others talk. Let your words become orders to your subconscious, not entertainment for your friends. Every time you do this, you strengthen your inner authority. You may be tempted to share your plans to feel supported. But support gained through sympathy is a crutch, not a ladder. The only help you need is the silent partnership of faith, not a ladder. The only help you need is the silent partnership of faith. Learn to draw encouragement from your own persistence. The man who depends on others to believe in him will never believe in himself. To master silence, practice this discipline for 30 days. Speak of your goals to no one. Let your progress be invisible. Let your success appear a surprise, not expectation. During this time, replace talk with work. Each hour of silence will build energy. Each act of completion will feed confidence. You will discover that your results grow faster when your words grow fewer. People will notice a change in you. They will sense a quiet intensity, a reserved power. They will speak more carefully in your presence, for they will feel that you are a man of direction. You will not need to say you are disciplined. They will know it. You will not need to announce progress. They will see it. The man who holds his purpose within becomes magnetic. See it. The man who holds his purpose within becomes magnetic. Others respect what they cannot fully read. They may not understand your silence, but they will be drawn to it. For silence suggests depth, and depth commands reverence. A talkative man reveals himself too soon. A silent man allows curiosity to serve him. Let this be your affirmation. I trade praise for progress. I do not speak to be admired, but to progress. I do not speak to be admired, but to act with precision. I build in silence and let my works declare my worth. Each time I resist the urge to boast, I preserve the fire of my purpose. Repeated each morning until the need for approval loses its hold. The hunger for validation will be replaced by hunger for victory. When that happens, you will know freedom. He who speaks for validation will never build for vindication. Silence guards fire. Talk extinguishes it. Speak less, act more. Let the world discover you, not because you announced yourself, but because your results made silence impossible. The second sign, you seek counsel from the unqualified. There are few poisons more subtle than the opinions of those who have never built anything of value. Those who have never built anything of value. Yet most men drink this poison daily. They speak of their dreams to the faithless, seeking wisdom from those who have none, mistaking noise for knowledge. And the result is always the same. Their conviction weakens, their fire cools, and their plan, once alive with promise, becomes a corpse buried under borrowed doubt. You must learn this early. Advice is only as valuable as the life that gives it. No man can guide you beyond the point he has reached himself. The unqualified advisor speaks not from understanding, but from fear, disguised as caution. He projects his failures onto your future. His words are not direction. They are confession. Every warning he gives reveals what he dared not attempt. The mind is a vessel. Whatever enters it shapes the pattern of its thinking. When you listen to one who has not achieved, you tune your mind to the frequency of his limitation. You begin to see through his eyes, to measure through his failures, to speak through his disbelief. Doubt is contagious, and the careless listener becomes infected. The law of vibration governs this. Thoughts of equal nature attract and reinforce one another. A mind filled with faith cannot remain long in harmony with one filled with fear. One must yield. Therefore, every conversation changes you, either lifting or lowering your vibration. Choose your company as you would choose your diet. The wrong food poisons the body. The wrong association poisons the soul. Henry Ford once said that the average man spends more time studying the weather than studying success. When he first conceived of building an affordable automobile, he was told by engineers, bankers, and businessmen alike that it could not be done. If the public needs horses, give them horses, they said. But Ford trusted the voice within more than the chorus. Without his refusal to consult the unqualified changed the world. Ford's greatest act was not inventing the car. It was rejecting the counsel of limitation. Each time he was told impossible, Each time he was told impossible, he grew more definite. Each time he was ridiculed, his faith deepened. He listened only to the law of his own purpose, and law itself rewarded his obedience. That is the difference between the creator and the complainer. One listens inwardly, the other outwardly. Most men are slaves to the noise around them. They seek permission from mediocrity before daring to act. They fear being wrong more than remaining ordinary. But greatness is born of solitude. It grows in the quiet soil of self-rust. The man who fears the disapproval of the unqualified will never qualify himself for success. Understand this truth. No one can interpret your purpose for you. Infinite intelligence gave it to you alone. The vision in your heart was not sent to your neighbor's mind for validation. It was entrusted to your will for execution. When you allow others to judge what they did not conceive, you commit treason against your own destiny. You may say, but is it not wise to seek advice? Yes, but only from those whose results prove their wisdom. The counsel of failure is corruption, but the counsel of success is confirmation. The wise man does not despise advice. He measures it. He tests the speaker before the speech. He listens only to the voices whose lives echo the results he desires. To seek advice is not wrong. To seek it from the wrong source is fatal. It is like asking a blind man to choose the color of your future. He will answer, but his answer will darken you. Most people will advise you to remain where they are, for your rising would expose their stillness. They will disguise envy as prudence, fear as experience, and you will call it wisdom unless you think for yourself. Never forget the world is full of teachers who have never built a thing. Never forget the world is full of teachers who have never built a thing. Critics who have never created. Experts who have never dared. Their words sound convincing, for doubt always speaks with certainty, but results never lie. Measure counsel not by eloquence, but by evidence. A man's fruits reveal the soil of his mind. Every time you consult weakness, you lower your own power. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between the speaker and the listener. It absorbs the dominant emotion of the conversation. If the man advising you doubts, that vibration becomes your own. In seeking counsel, you have accepted infection. You will begin to hesitate where once you believed, to calculate where once acted. The seed of indecision has been planted. The cure is discrimination, not against men, but against mental states. Before you receive advice, ask yourself, does this person's life reflect the law I wish to follow? Has he proven mastery in this field? Does he believe in success as I do? If not, his counsel will cost you more than any failure. It will replace your vision with his blindness. Do not be deceived by good intentions. The road to failure is lined with advice from those who meant well. They will tell you to be realistic, to be careful, to stay within limits. They do not hate you. They simply cannot see. Their horizon is not yours. They wish to protect you from disappointment, not realizing that their protection is paralysis. To guard your purpose, speak of it only to those who can strengthen it. If no such man is near, then speak to none. Solitude is safer than the wrong alliance. It is better to walk alone in faith than to walk with a crowd in doubt. Infinite intelligence travels through silence more swiftly than through conversation. Make this a daily practice. Each time you feel the urge to ask advice, pause. Ask yourself instead, do I already know the answer? Most of the time you do. The conscience is law's messenger. It whispers before you ever ask. You ignore it because you do not trust it. But the moment you do, you will find that the right counsel was within you all along. I have watched men destroy fortunes by trusting the wrong counsel. They had the right plan, the right timing, the right purpose, and the wrong ear. They told it to a man who laughed, and in that laughter, their faith died. Others told it to a man who feared, and in his fear their confidence dissolved. The listener's belief becomes part of the builder's foundation. Choose carefully whom you allow to contribute. Carnegie used to say, I have never asked a man for advice unless he was already doing what I wanted to do. That is wisdom. Do not take lessons in flight from those who still crawl. Seek guidance only from those who have walked the road you intend to travel. And then listen with your own judgment awake. The man who guards his plans as sacred attracts the right allies naturally. His silence radiates certainty. People of faith sense it and draw near. People of weakness sense it and withdraw. This is the law of vibration in motion. Like attracts like. Guard your inner atmosphere, and the right minds will find you. Now let me speak of the deeper danger. When you consult the unqualified, you offend infinite intelligence itself. For you declare by your action, I trust man more than law. You trade the wisdom that whispers within for the noise that shouts without. Law withdraws from those who dishonor it through dependence on the blind. You were not made to follow. You were made to think. Thought is the one freedom that cannot be taken, yet most men give it away willingly. They prefer the comfort of being told to the courage of knowing. The man of purpose cannot afford this luxury. His thought must be his own, pure and definite. Practice this affirmation each morning. I receive counsel only from competence. I listen only to those whose results prove their wisdom. My mind is immune to borrowed doubt. I guard my faith as treasure, and it multiplies through obedience to law. Repeat it until you feel its truth settle within you. This affirmation is armor for the soul. It protects you from the contagion of other men's fear. You will find as you apply this law that your decisions become swifter and surer. You will no longer waste days seeking permission from others. You will feel guided from within, calm amid confusion, firm amid contradiction. Those who once intimidated you with their certainty will now seem small, for you will see that their certainty was ignorance wearing confidence. Others will sense your independence. They will begin to trust your word more than their own thoughts. They will come to you for counsel, not realizing that you learned wisdom by learning whom not to ask. And when they ask, do not speak hastily. Teach them as I now teach you to listen inwardly first and outwardly only when the voice within agrees. The moment you cease to seek approval from the unqualified, your progress will accelerate. The mind once divided between your purpose and their opinions will become whole again. Doubt will lose its grip. The path that seemed uncertain will straighten, for when your thought is united, the universe becomes obedient. Guard your plans from the untrained mind. What they call impossible law calls unpracticed. Their disbelief is not proof of your error. It is proof of their blindness. Do not argue with them. Pity them if you must, but never imitate them. The man who imitates doubt inherits failure. The man who imitates faith inherits fortune. Let silence be your refuge and faith your counselor, for within you lives the same intelligence that guided every man who ever succeeded. When you learn to trust it completely, you will discover that true counsel is not borrowed, it is received. The third sign, you announce intention without commitment. There is a subtle deception that ruins the plans of men before a single step is taken. It is the illusion of movement created by words. Every time a man announces his intention before committing himself to action, he gives the mind a false sense of completion. The subconscious, eager to please, accepts the announcement as achievement. The energy that should have built becomes contentment. Thus, he mistakes expression for execution and dies still talking of what he might have done. The law of mental substitution governs this principle. One form of energy will always replace another. Speech, if not guided by purpose takes the place of labor. Words unbacked by action consume the very fuel required to act. This is why the talkative seldom achieve, and the silent often accomplish much. The tongue spends what the hand should invest. You must understand that the mind rewards you for declaring intention. It releases the satisfaction that belongs only to accomplishment. The pleasure of applause, even imagined applause, arrives too soon. And because you have tasted it, you no longer hunger for the real thing. Men who boast their plans feed on illusion. They dine on smoke and rise from the table, proud but empty. Andrew Carnegie never spoke of what he intended to do. He spoke only of what had been done. In his youth, while others debated possibilities, he worked. When asked of his methods, he said, "I have always preferred to let results be my spokesman." His associates often marveled that he could remain silent under provocation, yet every time he withheld words, he stored energy. That energy, multiplied by restraint, became his empire. Carnegie understood that power is not scattered, it is concentrated. Every thought spoken before its time is a leak in the reservoir of will. The man who speaks before he acts loses the heat that forges destiny. He opens the furnace door and wonders why the metal cools. Creation requires containment. Just as molten steel must be held in its mold until it hardens, an idea must remain within until it has form. There is an old proverb that says, "Do not count the harvest while the seed is still in your hand." To speak prematurely is to plant your seed in the air. Nothing grows in conversation. Nothing grows in conversation. Growth requires contact with soil, the soil of action, of sweat, of silent persistence. Talk produces no roots. The world is filled with men who announce their dreams but never planted them. Every time you speak of what you will do without immediate motion toward it, you rob yourself of the momentum of desire. Desire once expressed without outlet dissipates. It is like steam vented before it turns the wheel. The man who keeps his purpose silent allows pressure to build until action becomes inevitable. The wise man speaks of his intentions only in two forms: in prayer to infinite intelligence or in command to his own subconscious. All other speech is leakage. You may write your goals in private, read them daily, whisper them to the silence of faith, but never announce them for admiration. Law rewards secrecy, not spectacle. The psychological danger of idle talk lies in its subtlety. The talker feels active. He believes he has begun. His friends impressed encourage him. Praise replaces planning. He begins to mistake their approval for progress. Soon the idea becomes conversation material rather than construction material. The vision, once vivid, fades into casual story. The fire cools under the applause of the uninformed. I have watched men destroy great opportunities through this weakness. They spoke of a new invention, a business, a purpose. And within days, they lost all urgency. They mistook recognition for realization. Their subconscious mind said, "The goal is complete," because it had received the emotional reward intended only for success. Words created false completion. The plan died of overexposure. Action is the only proof of intention. Until you act, your action is the only proof of intention. Until you act, your idea remains imagination. Do not tell me what you plan to do. Tell me what you have done. The man who announces his goal too soon has confused movement of the lips with movement of destiny. Creation does not happen through sound alone. It happens through organized energy directed by faith. If you would master yourself, learn to separate speaking from doing. Let every word spoken about your purpose be followed immediately by an act that proves it. Speak to confirm, not to comfort. Speak only to command your faculties into motion. Say, "I will begin now," and begin. Do not describe what you will build. Build it. The world believes action, not announcement. Each time you delay action after speech, your faith weakens. The subconscious expects obedience from the conscious mind. When the conscious makes a promise and fails to keep it, the subconscious withdraws trust. It no longer believes your commands. This is why men who constantly talk of change rarely change. Their own minds have learned to ignore their words. Make your statements to yourself, not to others. The written word engraves deeper than the spoken. Write your plans each morning, and let the act of writing become a covenant between your reason and your will. Paper does not flatter. It demands consistency. Every sentence becomes a contract. Unlike conversation, it cannot be retracted by whim. The man who acts quietly gains 2 victories, one over circumstance and one over himself. The act of restraint builds strength. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the presence of power. When you feel the urge to tell someone your plan, pause. Let that urge become fuel for action. Use it to take one small step toward realization. The moment you act, the desire to speak will vanish, replaced by the satisfaction of progress. Do not seek credit before completion. The applause that matters will come naturally when proof exists. The man who works in silence becomes a mystery, and mystery breeds respect. Those who achieve noisily gain attention but lose reverence. Those who achieve quietly earn both. In my studies of successful men, I found a common trait. They spoke little, but when they spoke, their words carried authority. Why? Spoke little, but when they spoke, their words carried authority. Why? Because their words were backed by results. They had earned the right to speak. Their silence was their preparation. Their speech was their confirmation. The untrained mind confuses noise with power. The wise know that true power is quiet. When you speak idly of your purpose, you weaken your reputation as well as your will. Each time you announce and fail to follow through, others learn not to believe you. Worse still, you learn not to believe yourself. Faith in self is built through obedience to self. Every unkempt promise becomes a wound in confidence. Silence heals. Boasting infects. There is an old law of energy that states, what is focused becomes stronger. What is scattered becomes weak. Each spoken word is a release of focus. A man who tells his plans to everyone scatters his creative force. A man who holds his vision within concentrates it until it burns through obstacles. Consider this exercise. For the next 30 days, do not tell a soul of your next goal. Let not one word of it escape your lips. Act daily upon it, but share nothing. At the end of that period, observe your strength. You will find your energy more intense, your concentration sharper, your desire renewed. The fire of silence forges steel. Carnegie once said that his greatest victories came from decisions made in private and revealed only through success. He called this silent strategy. He believed that the moment a man begins to justify, explain, or promise, he weakens his authority. Speak after results, and your words will carry the weight of proof. You must become intolerant of your own idle declarations. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I will stop and ask, why am I speaking?" instead of doing. The moment you obey that question, you move from dreamer to doer. Speech without purpose is self-deception. Speech with purpose is command. The difference lies in timing and faith. To cure the disease of idle talk, Replace it with silent planning. Planning is speech with direction. The man who plans on paper converts vision into structure. The man who talks on impulse converts strength into smoke. Plans grow, talk evaporates. Remember, every great work began in silence. The sculptor does not describe his statue, he chisels. The inventor does not advertise his blueprint, he experiments. The general does not announce his strategy, he executes it. The more definite the plan, the fewer words it requires. Now speak this affirmation aloud until it becomes law in your heart. I speak less. I act more. My plans grow in silence. Each time I resist the urge to talk, my power increases. I am master of my word because I am master of myself. Let this become your daily creed. Each repetition will strengthen your command over emotion. Soon you will find pleasure not in telling what you will do, but in knowing what you are doing. The man of silence lives from accomplishment to accomplishment, never from announcement to excuse. A plan spoken idly is a promise broken in advance. Keep your words sacred, first to yourself, then to the world. Announce nothing until it is real, and then announce it through result, not rhetoric. Speak your faith to infinite intelligence, your command to yourself, and your proof to mankind. That is the law. For the man who learns to hold his words holds his world. The man who speaks without commitment loses both. The fourth sign. You explain to the doubtful. Every man who seeks to accomplish anything great must one day face the temptation to explain himself. It begins subtly. You share your purpose with one who questions it. And when his eyes betray disbelief, you rush to defend your vision. You begin to explain your faith, to justify your dream, to reason with the blind. And in doing so, you exchange creative power for argument. The moment you explain to the doubtful, you admit their authority over your conviction. You must understand that faith is not a theory to be proven. It is a command to be obeyed. It does not plead for acceptance. It acts with certainty. The man who explains his belief to one who does not share it degrades that belief into debate. It grows only in silence. It cannot breathe in the climate of doubt. Each time you try to make another see what you see, you divide your energy between building and convincing. One builds worlds, the other wins applause. The man who builds does not stop to argue with those who cannot imagine. He knows that argument is the occupation of the idle. The man who argues spends the strength meant for construction upon conversation. The desire to be understood is noble in friendship, but fatal in purpose. The doubter cannot understand your dream because he has not paid the price to see it. He lacks the vision that comes from desire, the patience that comes from persistence, the faith that comes from effort. His horizon is short, and he will insist that yours must be as well. When you try to reason with such a man, you place yourself on his level, and in doing so, lose power. Abraham Lincoln knew this law better than most. During the war, he was slandered, mocked. If I tried to answer every attack, he once said, I might as well close this office and spend all my time in it. Lincoln understood that history would defend him far better than argument. He did not aim, he acted, and his results became his vindication. Faith, like Lincoln's, speaks softly, but carries eternity in its tone. It was no permission, no applause, and no explanation. Those who live by faith know that belief must precede proof, and that proof, once created, requires no defense. The moment you begin to explain what you're doing, you have already planted its confusion in your soil. Consider how doubt spreads. One small question from is enough to infect an entire plan. Are you sure? They ask. And suddenly, you are not. Their uncertainty becomes yours. Not because they were right, but because you invited them in. The subconscious mind accepts suggestion from any source you treat as authority. And each time you defend yourself to another, you make that other an in-authority over your own faith. Never explain your purpose to one who has not earned the right to hear it. The right to your truth is granted only to those who believe in the law. Speak of your vision to a doubter is to hand your weapon to and then argue about whether you deserve it. You explanation for your faith. The only proof required is persistence. Understand this. Every explanation weakens the will. It forces the mind to divide its energy between conviction and defense. One must yield. You cannot build and defend simultaneously. The mason who stops every few minutes to argue with a passerby never finishes his wall. The man who builds in silence completes it and lets the result answer for him. Faith does not seek to convert the doubter. It seeks to conquer through demonstration. The man of faith knows that every act is equal. He says nothing. He does everything. The man of doubt does the opposite. He says everything and does nothing. Every time you explain your plan to the doubtful, you reveal your insecurity. You admit that you need them to see before you can believe. But the truth is reversed. You must believe before they can see. Do not make your confidence dependent on their comprehension. The dream was not given to them. It was entrusted to you. Their doubt has no jurisdiction over your destiny. I have watched many promising men lose momentum in the swamp of explanation. They began bold, but soon found themselves spending hours justifying their purpose to those who could not understand it. Each argument drained them. Each doubt they tried to erase took a piece of their focus. Eventually, their fire died, not from failure, but from exhaustion. They talked their power away. Silence is not avoidance. It is strategy. When the doubtful speak, answers every critic admits that the critic's voice matters. The man who continues his work in silence commands the universe to vindicate him. Life rewards the doer, not the debater. The wise man knows that explanation belongs to results, not beginnings. When your work is complete, the world will understand. Until then, silence is your shield. The seed does not explain its purpose to the soil. It simply grows. When the tree appears, no one doubts that the seed knew what it was doing. Let your results speak as trees, rooted, unarguable, alive. To explain to the doubtful is to cast pearls before those who cannot recognize their worth. You waste what is sacred. You give them the opportunity to trample it, not out of malice, but out of blindness. Protect your ideas from that blindness. Let ignorance question itself in your absence. You owe no man an explanation for your faith, your persistence, or your vision. When a man of purpose is misunderstood, he is not disturbed. Faith. Their misunderstanding is proof that he walks a higher path. He feels no need to convert them, for conversion comes through example, not argument. If you wish to strengthen your will, learn to remain silent in the face of misunderstanding. Let them doubt you. Let them call you foolish. Let them say, "He has lost his mind." Their words will become the wind that sharpens your direction. Every insult can become fuel if you refuse to explain. The doubter feeds on your reaction. When you argue, you affirm his importance. When you stay silent, you deny him access to your power. The greatest insult to disbelief is results. When you complete what they said was impossible, their criticism becomes your crown. Practice this exercise for 30 days. When questioned about your purpose, smile and remain silent. Let every question draw from you, not words but energy. Store that energy for your work. Each unspoken explanation will strengthen your discipline. You will begin to feel Repeat this affirmation daily. My results will for me. I owe no man an explanation for my. I am guided by infinite intelligence, and my proof is progress. My faith does not argue. It acts. As you repeat it, you will notice a calm begin to replace the old and yourself. Your confidence will no longer need audience or approval. The doubters will lose their influence over you, and their words will roll off your mind like rain from stone. People will sense something different in you. They will feel that you are not swayed by opinion. They will speak carefully. For some will test you. Let them. Their disbelief is their own lesson. Your results will become their teacher. Abraham Lincoln's life stands as proof that faith without explanation is the highest strength. He was patient under criticism, calm under attack, unshaken under misunderstanding. His silence was not weakness. It was reverence for truth. He knew that time would vindicate him, and so it did. Truth, when obeyed, needs no defense. Learn from Lincoln. When the world questions your plan, do not reply with words. Reply with work. Let each day's labor become a chapter in your defense. Let persistence write your argument, and victory deliver your speech. The man who acts while others argue has already won. You will notice as you apply this law that your peace increases. You will no longer feel compelled to explain or justify. You will speak less and accomplish more. You will save years of wasted energy once spent convincing others. You will discover that silence is the most, for it allows results to do the talking. Let this truth settle deeply in your heart. Faith does not need to be explained. It needs to be expressed through action. The man who argues for his belief has already begun to doubt it. The man who acts upon his belief makes doubt impossible. The next time someone questions your path, smile and say nothing. If you must speak, say only this: watch me. That phrase is the anthem of every man who has ever achieved greatness. Watch me, not because he seeks validation, but because he knows law will vindicate him. Let your results speak. Let silence guard your purpose. Let the doubters waste their breath while you use yours to command action. You are not here to convince. You are here to create. Remember this law. Faith does not plead, it commands. Results are the only explanation required. The fifth sign: you confuse expression with creation. There is a moment in every man's growth when he mistakes motion for progress, talk for power, and expression for creation. He confuses the joy of describing a vision with the labor of building it. Giving it words, he has given it life. Yet every word spoken before the work is done weakens the fire that could have made it real. The true creator does not waste breath on possibilities. He breathes life into form. Every idea has a season of silence, a sacred period in which it must live unseen, protected from the frost of opinion and the glare of judgment. When you speak too soon of what you intend, you pull that idea out of its soil. You expose it to an atmosphere where it cannot yet survive. Like a seed lifted before its roots have taken hold, it withers not from lack of power, but from lack of protection. Creation is not display, it is gestation. The great builder does not parade his blueprints before the foundation is laid. The wise farmer still bare, yet most men are eager to speak before they have acted, eager to show before they have grown. They crave the sound of approval more than the sound of hammer striking nail. You must understand expression is easy. Creation is hard. Expression flatters the ego. Creation disciplines it. Expression requires imagination. Creation demands endurance. The talker releases energy through words. The worker channels it into results. The man who builds learns that silence is not empty but incubation. Each hour of stillness allows form to rise from thought. John D. Rockefeller mastered this discipline. When he began organizing his oil interests, he told no one of his designs. While his competitors boasted of their reach, Rockefeller built his quietly. He understood that exposure invites interference. Every word spoken of his plans would have drawn opposition. His silence became his fortress. He spoke only when the plan was complete, and by then his words carried the authority of proof. Rockefeller once said, "Work not words will make you." He lived that law. While others argued, he calculated. While others announced, he advanced. His empire was not built by convincing others to believe. It was built by acting until disbelief was useless. That is creation in its purest form. Expression has its place, but only after manifestation. The sculptor may speak of beauty after the marble breathes, not before the chisel strikes. The scientist may describe succeeds, not while the idea still lives in thought. Speech before creation is waste. Speech after creation is teaching. The wise man speaks only when the word multiplies power, never when it disperses it. The reason expression destroys creation is simple. Emotion. Every idea carries energy, a spiritual heat that demands outlet. When you speak of your goal, you release that heat. The excitement that could have fueled work dissolves in conversation. You feel satisfied, but you have created nothing. The mind deceived by emotional release believes the task complete. The result is stillness where there should be movement. Men often say, "Oh, I must talk about it. It helps me think." That is a trap. True thinking begins only when speech ends. The creative process demands inward dialogue, not outward discussion. The mind needs silence to shape thought. Each word spoken too early scatters the fragments before they can unite into plan. Creation is not noise. The creative mind functions like a womb, hidden, quiet, patient. The moment it is disturbed, the process falters. This is why all great men cherish solitude. Edison locked himself away for weeks at a time. Ford disappeared into long walks. Carnegie retreated to silence before every major decision. They did not talk of their thoughts. They communed with them. You must know the difference between expression that strengthens and expression that steals. To strengthen, speech must direct emotion toward faith and action. To steal, speech must dissipate it through idle talk. Ask yourself before speaking, will this word move me closer to creation or from it? If it does not serve purpose, it serves pride. There is a law of energy cannot be broken. What you reveal, the more you talk of your purpose, the more you spend the very energy needed to fulfill it. Speech consumes vitality. Silence accumulates it. The reservoir of mental force must remain full for faith to do its work. The talker draws from it constantly. The creator lets it build until it becomes irresistible power. Every great work of art, every invention, every fortune began in the quiet certainty of one mind. The public saw only the final result, not the long nights of inward labor. Creation begins, for the unseen governs the seen. To speak of it too soon is to open the cocoon before the butterfly can fly. Many people speak to relieve tension. They feel the pressure of desire and seek release through word. But the wise understand that tension is divine fuel. It is meant to drive effort, not conversation. Hold your desire within until it propels you to act. Let speech be the last step, not the first. When you express your idea prematurely, you invite opinions. And opinions are interference. They change your vibration, divert your attention, weaken your confidence. You begin to adjust your vision to fit their expectations. Before long, the idea no longer belongs. It has been carved by many untrained hands. What could have been a masterpiece becomes a crowd sketch. Creation requires secrecy, not out of fear, but out of respect. It is not distrust of others. It is trust in law. You must allow the law to do its work through you before you announce what it is built. The man who obeys this law becomes a vessel of power. His silence hums with creative force. People will sense it and respect him without. The world mocks what it cannot yet see. Every genius was first accused of folly. Had they explained their work, they would have been laughed into mediocrity. So they kept still, and the world that mocked them later bowed before them. That is the difference between those who talk of creation and those who create. The talkers demand belief. The creators earn it. You must learn to love secrecy. Secrecy is sacredness. It preserves the purity of your purpose. Do not speak of your ideas until they have entered form. When you must speak, speak with definiteness. State what is, not what will be. The world respects results, not rehearsals. Practice this discipline. Choose one idea that you wish to bring to life. For 30 days, speak of it to no one. Act upon it in silence. Each day, perform one small task toward its completion. Record your progress privately. Watch how quickly the idea strengthens. You will feel a current of power rising within you. Calm, power rising within you. Calm, steady, certain. That is the reward of secrecy. Repeat this affirmation daily. My silence nourishes creation. I speak only when the word strengthens faith. My ideas grow unseen until they bloom in proof. I am the guardian of my purpose, and through silence, I multiply power. As these words become habit, you will notice change in your presence. You will carry a quiet intensity. Others will feel that something great is forming within you. Though they cannot name it, they will respect your calm, for it hints at mastery. You will no longer feel the need to explain, announce, or impress. The satisfaction of progress will replace the hunger for attention. The man who has learned to remain silent until the work is done has already won half the battle of creation. His thoughts gather strength in solitude. His actions grow more deliberate. His faith becomes unbreakable. Nothing can sway him, for his power is internal, not borrowed. Look again at Rockefeller. His silence was not secrecy born of fear. It was order born of wisdom. He understood that every word spoken must serve structure. Idle talk was waste, and waste was sin against success. By the time others learned of his plans, they were already fact. He had built the invisible first. The visible followed naturally. This law applies to all forms of creation: business, art, invention, character. The man who wishes to build strength must guard his speech as he guards his treasure. Words are currency. Spend them only where they will earn return. The great tragedy of ordinary men is that they speak away their destiny. They describe, they promise, they explain, but they never construct. Their power evaporates through conversation. They exhaust their inspiration in talk shows, meetings, gossip, and excuses. By the time they sit to work, their energy is gone. Speech can either bless or betray. It is sacred when used to affirm, destructive when used to distract. When you speak faith aloud, it feeds the subconscious. When you speak plans aloud to the faithless, it leaks their doubt into your creation. Choose carefully where your words fall. There is another reason silence strengthens creation. It builds emotional pressure. The longer you withhold your expression, the more concentrated your desire becomes. When at last you act with force. Your thought has been distilled into certainty. The man who speaks constantly dilutes his power. The man who waits releases it all at once and moves mountains. When the time comes to reveal your creation, speak with authority. Let your words be few, clear, and final. Those who doubted will listen. Those who mocked will bow. You will not need to justify. The proof will be undeniable. Creation and expression are partners only when expression follows completion. Until then, silence is the workshop of genius. Understand this truth and live by it. To express before you create is to weaken creation. To create before you express is to give words the power of law. The man who speaks before he builds invites destruction by curiosity. The man who builds before he speaks commands the respect of heaven and earth. Let your silence speak for you until your results cannot be denied. The sixth sign, you seek sympathy instead of solution. There is a form of weakness that disguises itself as honesty. It is the act of speaking of one's hardship not to overcome it, but to be pitied for it. It is the subtle habit of seeking sympathy instead of solution, of trading growth for comfort. Many men mistake this for courage, but it is the most refined cowardice, for it asks to be understood instead of demanding to be strong. Every time you speak of your struggle with complaint, you tell the subconscious that you are a victim. And the subconscious, obedient and literal, begins to shape your world accordingly. It will fill your days with conditions to justify your words. If you insist upon being seen as burdened, it will provide burden. If you insist upon being capable, it will provide means. Speech writes your destiny long before action does. The man who seeks sympathy robs himself of solution. His energy meant for correction is spent in confession. He talks of his troubles until they become his identity. He finds relief in describing pain, but never release from it. The law cannot serve him, for the law answers definiteness, not distress. Infinite intelligence moves through command, not complaint. Self-pity is the most cunning thief of achievement, for it steals both time and spirit. It invites others to agree with your limitation, to stroke your weakness instead of challenging it. You gather around you comforters instead of conquerors. They mean well, but they paralyze you with kindness. They confirm your defeat by making it acceptable. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times, yet he never complained. He did not seek sympathy when the world called him a fool. He sought the next test. Each failure was not a story to tell, but a lesson to extract. When asked why he did not quit, he said, "I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that will not work." That is the voice of solution, not sympathy. Edison understood that complaint magnifies failure while gratitude transforms it. When you speak of what went wrong, you build a monument to defeat. When you speak of what you learned, you build a bridge to success. Every word directed toward weakness multiplies it. Every word directed toward strength strengthens it. The law does not judge, it simply reflects. You must learn to treat hardship as raw material. The fire that burns can also temper. The storm that bends the tree can also deepen its roots. When you seek sympathy, you flee from the furnace. When you seek solution, you enter it willingly, knowing that pain is not punishment, but preparation. The man who avoids hardship avoids growth. The world has no shortage of listeners, but a scarcity of doers. Most men want to be heard, not helped. They tell their stories endlessly, gathering attention as a substitute for action. They mistake discussion for deliverance. They believe that by expressing their weakness, they have exercised it. But weakness leaves only when replaced by strength. Talk without transformation is indulgence. I tell you, this is law. The mind cannot hold two masters, self-pity and self-respect. Every time you choose to complain, you dismiss the authority of faith. Faith cannot live where the voice of grievance reigns. The man who would command circumstance must first silence the impulse to complain. Understand this. Complaint is prayer in reverse. Each word of misery is an affirmation to failure. Each repetition of sorrow is a demand for more of it. You cannot build prosperity by rehearsing pain. You cannot attract power while confessing weakness. Infinite intelligence grants increase where gratitude reigns, not where self-pity lingers. The strongest souls in history knew this law. Lincoln, when pressed under impossible burdens, never begged for comfort. He would retire in silence, walk beneath the stars, and commune with that infinite mind that rules all order. His solace came not from sympathy, but from understanding that every trial carried instruction. He said, "I have been driven to my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go." From that prayer, not complaint, came guidance. You must adopt the same spirit. The next time you feel wronged by life, refuse to speak of it. Write instead what the lesson may be. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? The law always provides answers to those who inquire with faith. The man who complains receives more to complain about. The man who questions receives wisdom. The desire for sympathy is rooted in fear, the fear of standing alone, of enduring without applause. It is the craving to be comforted rather than corrected, but correction is mercy in disguise. Every stern lesson life gives is meant to carve away illusion. The sooner you cease to seek sympathy, the sooner you will find strength. Self-pity feeds on memory. It replays old wounds to sustain itself. The man of power refuses to replay pain. He converts every recollection into instruction. He says, this will not happen again, and builds new habits from that decision. The man who refuses to let go of grievance builds a monument to his own failure. The man who forgives and forgets builds a foundation for triumph. The greatest danger of sympathy is that it substitutes emotion for effort. You feel relieved without changing anything. You experience the warmth of understanding and mistake it for progress. But progress is not emotional. It is structural. It requires new thought, new discipline, new decision. Comfort is temporary. Correction is eternal. Do not confide your pain to those who will merely agree with it. Speak only to those who will challenge it. The weak listener comforts. The strong listener commands you to rise. Seek not those who nod at your sorrow, but those who remind you of your power. One moment of honest challenge is worth more than hours of pity. If you must speak of your hardship, speak only to infinite intelligence. Speak as one giving instruction to the subconscious, not as one begging for mercy. Say, I accept this challenge as my teacher. I will draw strength from it. I will not retreat but refine. Law will hear such speech and arrange conditions to prove it true. Let me give you a discipline that will change your life. For the next 24 hours, speak not a single word of complaint. No matter the inconvenience, no matter the delay, no matter the difficulty, hold your tongue. Observe how often the impulse arises. Each unspoken complaint will reveal how much energy you have wasted on self-pity. At the end of the day, you will feel stronger, not because conditions change, but because you mastered reaction. Repeat this daily affirmation until it shapes your character. I speak not of problems, I speak of power. Every difficulty strengthens my resolve. I no longer seek pity, I seek purpose. I command my tongue to serve faith, not fear. You will find that each repetition changes your vibration. Your words will carry new tone, your presence new weight. People will sense that you no longer ask to be comforted. You are comfort itself. They will come to you for strength, not sympathy. And in serving them, you will grow even stronger. Understand that silence during hardship is not suppression. It is transmutation. The energy of pain, when not released in complaint, rises to a higher level. It becomes determination. The very force that once made you weep will make you work. Every hardship can be converted to strength if it is not spoken in weakness. When Edison faced the fire that destroyed his laboratory, he did not mourn. He said, "Thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start anew." That is the spirit of mastery. The man who speaks thus commands law itself, for law responds to faith spoken in crisis. When you bless the fire, the ashes become foundation. Each time you restrain complaint, you reinforce your dominion. The habit of silence under adversity is the habit of kingship. The man who controls his tongue controls his fate. The man who explains his misfortune surrenders twice, first to the event, then to his description of it. Your words are commands to infinite intelligence. Speak weakness, and law says, so it shall be. Speak strength, and it obeys likewise. Every syllable is creative energy. To speak defeat is to build failure brick by brick. To speak victory is to construct destiny. You are either building your future or broadcasting your fear. The man who refuses sympathy begins to attract respect. Others sense that his faith is internal. They cease offering pity because they feel it is unnecessary. They watch his calm and begin to wonder what law he obeys that grants him such composure. Without preaching, he becomes example. His silence instructs. His steadiness inspires. There is a strange thing that happens when you stop seeking sympathy. Problems begin to shrink. The energy happens when you stop seeking sympathy. Problems begin to shrink. The energy once spent describing them now fuels their solution. You think clearer, act faster, decide stronger. The universe, seeing that you no longer broadcast distress, sends assistance in the form of opportunity. Conditions begin to obey your command. The crowd feeds upon sympathy because it is easier than self-mastery. To complain requires no courage. To rise requires all of it. You were not made for the crowd. You were made to command yourself. That is the true battle, the war between your lower nature that desires pity and your higher nature that demands progress. The choice is simple. Every time you are tempted to speak of what is wrong, speak instead of what will be right. Train the tongue to obey the mind. Train the mind to obey faith. This is the chain of command that governs destiny. In the end, your life will testify. Those who sought sympathy will have stories. Those who sought sympathy will have stories. Those who sought solution will have empires. Choose which you prefer. Let this be your vow. I will not speak to be pitied. I will speak to be powerful. I will not ask for relief. I will act for result. I will not waste breath describing problems. I will use it to command progress. My words will never serve weakness again. Say these words until they define you. Act upon them until they become you. The world does not reward those who complain of conditions. It rewards those who master them. For every hardship that visits you, there is a hidden gift, a chance to prove your strength, to develop your faith, to refine your character. Accept each as an invitation, not an insult. The moment you cease to complain, you begin to create. And remember always, the man who complains advertises his weakness. The man who endures in silence multiplies his strength. The seventh sign. You do not distinguish between privacy and isolation. There comes a moment in every man's pursuit of power when solitude becomes necessary. Yet few know how to use it. Some fear it, mistaking quiet for loneliness. Others abuse it, mistaking withdrawal for wisdom. There is a sacred difference between privacy and isolation, between the silence that builds and the silence that decays. One refines your mind into mastery, the other rusts it into apathy. You must learn what you are practicing. Privacy is the fortress of the thinker. Isolation is the prison of the doubter. The first is chosen, the second is suffered. Privacy is the deliberate withdrawal of one's attention from the world to commune with infinite intelligence. Isolation is the retreat of the weak, who, wounded by criticism or fear, hide from the very experiences that would strengthen them. To build power, you must separate from distraction, but not from direction. You must step back from the crowd, not to escape life, but to observe it from a higher plane. Solitude rightly used is the workshop of success. In that stillness, ideas ripen, plans take form, and courage gathers strength. But when solitude becomes an excuse to avoid duty, it changes from workshop to tomb. Every man of greatness mastered the art of sacred withdrawal. Henry Ford would walk alone for hours before every new venture. He said that his best thoughts came not in meetings, but in silence. Edison would retreat into solitude before every breakthrough. Carnegie would isolate himself for entire days to think through problems no counsel could solve. They did not run from men. They simply learned that the mind speaks loudest when the world is quiet. You must build this rhythm into your life, a deliberate alternation between engagement and withdrawal. Action without reflection leads to blindness. Reflection without action leads to decay. The mind, like the lungs, must inhale silence and exhale service. One without the other suffocates purpose. The undisciplined man confuses isolation with privacy. He calls his withdrawal independence, yet his heart knows it as fear. He hides from rejection, not distraction. He separates himself because he has not yet learned to govern himself. Isolation is not strength. Isolation is not strength. It is avoidance disguised as wisdom. Understand this truth. The man who cannot be alone cannot be free, but the man who will not return from solitude cannot be useful. You must enter the quiet to gain power and leave it to apply power. Solitude is a training ground, not a refuge. Privacy is strength under control. Isolation is strength in retreat. The world belongs to those who can think while alone and act among men. Privacy gives birth to ideas. Interaction gives them form. The hermit who never returns from the mountain hoards his light. The sage who descends after enlightenment changes nations. Be not the man who hides. Be the man who awns. When you misunderstand privacy, you lose opportunity. You say, I do not need others. And your pride isolates you from cooperation. You reject correction, despising even those sent to aid you. In protecting your ego, you destroy your progress. Isolation is the pride of the insecure, a refusal to admit that law works through men as well as through thought. Remember, no great success is solitary in the end. Every creation requires the cooperation of minds in harmony. Even the thinker who conceives alone must at some point share his plan with those who can execute it. Solitude conceives, cooperation builds. You were never meant to remain hidden in silence. The seed that stays underground forever rots. It must rise to bear fruit. Yet there is a time when silence must be absolute. It is the hour of communion with infinite intelligence. Each day you must withdraw for at least 1 hour from the voices of men and listen to the voice within. This is the hour of privacy, not escape, but engagement with the source of all wisdom. In that hour, no conversation should intrude, no worry should enter, no memory should distract. It is the sacred meeting of your finite mind with the infinite. There, in silence, you will receive impressions, intuitions, and guidance that cannot be found in noise. Ideas will emerge as if whispered from eternity. You will sense direction without needing reason. This hour is not idleness. It is preparation. It clears the fog of confusion and aligns your thoughts with law. When you rise from it, your actions will flow with clarity and purpose. Solitude is misunderstood by the weak because they enter it without aim. They sit in silence but never listen. They withdraw physically but carry noise within. Their solitude becomes isolation because it lacks intention. Privacy without purpose decays into loneliness. The man who enters silence without question leaves it with none answered. You must go into privacy with demand, a definite chief aim to contemplate, a problem to solve, a virtue to develop. Approach silence as a soldier approaches instruction. Ask, how may I think more clearly? How may I act more efficiently? How may I align my plan with the laws of success? If you enter the quiet with a definite desire, infinite intelligence will answer. There is a moral discipline in solitude. It strips away pretense. When you are alone, there is no one to impress, no applause to seek, no excuse to hide behind. You meet yourself face to face, and that meeting is either judgment or liberation. Most men avoid it because they fear what they will find. They fill their days with noise, not because they love sound, but because they dread silence. But silence is the only place where you can measure your faith honestly. It will reveal whether your confidence is genuine or borrowed. In solitude, masks fall and the truth stands naked. There you will see whether your thought is disciplined or scattered, whether your purpose is definite or vague, whether your will is strong or weak. Such knowledge is priceless, for only through accurate self-measurement can you grow. To turn privacy into power, treat it as practice and command. As you sit in silence, direct your thoughts deliberately. Imagine yourself issuing orders to your mind, training it as a general trains an army. Say, you will think this way. You will hold this image. You will believe this truth. Each repetition strengthens your authority over self. Solitude becomes a classroom of discipline rather than a chamber of escape. The man who uses solitude thus becomes magnetic when he returns to the world. People sense calm around him. They cannot name it, but they feel it. His voice carries weight, his gaze steadiness, his presence peace. They trust him without knowing why. What they feel is the residue of silence, the vibration of a mind that has been harmonized with law. You will find that true privacy increases cooperation. Paradoxically, the more you master solitude, the more effectively you connect with others. Why? Because your thought becomes clean, and others feel safe in its presence. You no longer seek approval. You extend certainty. Men will follow you because you have learned to follow truth. Isolation, however, breeds suspicion. The man who cuts himself off grows strange in mind and brittle in spirit. His thoughts circle without progress. Without exchange, his perspective narrows. Without feedback, his errors multiply. Isolation whispers lies. You are complete, but privacy whispers law. You are being completed. Do not withdraw from the world to avoid pain. Withdraw to refine strength. Then return to the world and test it. The cycle of success is retreat, realization, return. Like the ocean tide, you must move inward to gather force and outward to express it. Without ebb, there is no flow. Without flow, there is stagnation. Let me remind you that even prayer obeys this rhythm. You enter silence to commune with infinite intelligence, then rise to act upon the impressions received. The prayer unfinished by action is isolation disguised as devotion. Law requires that faith be followed by motion. Henry Ford once said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably why so few engage in it." He found his greatest insights not surrounded by people, but in the quiet of his long walks. Yet when the idea came, he did not stay walking. He returned to build. His solitude was not separation from the world. It was preparation to serve it. You must practice the same rhythm. Dedicate an hour daily to silence, but give the rest of the day to service. Each morning, go inward for guidance. Each afternoon, go outward for execution. In the evening, return inward to measure. This balance will keep your soul vibrant and your mind clear. Repeat this affirmation each morning before your hour of solitude. My solitude is strength and preparation. I retreat to command myself. I return to serve others. Silence is my fortress, not my prison. Speak it until it becomes your law. You will feel a growing peace. The peace of a man who is never lonely, for he is in constant conversation with infinite intelligence. Others will notice the change. You will not be hurried. You will listen more and speak less. Your words will carry weight because they come from depth. Your calm will influence those around you. They will draw confidence from your composure. You will no longer depend on company to feel complete. Your strength will be self-contained. The undisciplined man rushes to fill every silence, fearing it exposes emptiness. The wise man fills silence with command. He does not escape into it. He expands through it. The silence of mastery is not the absence of sound, but the presence of power. When you have learned to balance privacy and participation, you will become whole. You will know when to speak and when to withhold, when to seek counsel and when to trust intuition. You will no longer drift between noise and neglect. Your life will move with rhythm, inward for wisdom, outward for work. In the end, you will find that privacy and isolation differ as day and night. Isolation is fear. Privacy is faith. Isolation is fear. Privacy is faith. Isolation hides. Privacy prepares. Isolation is the denial of power. Privacy is its refinement. The man who learns this distinction saves years of wandering, for he never loses himself either to the crowd or to seclusion. And when others wonder how you move with such calm purpose, you will smile, knowing it is the result of hours spent in communion with law. You will have discovered the secret known to every master who ever lived. The mind, when kept private but not imprisoned, becomes a channel of infinite intelligence itself. There is one sacred exception to the law of silence: the mastermind. It is the invisible alliance of two or more minds united in faith, loyalty, and definite purpose. Outside of it, words are noise. Within it, words are creation. Every great fortune, empire, and discovery has been born of a mastermind. No man, however brilliant, ever achieved lasting greatness alone. The strongest mind, unaided, is but a single wire. United with others of equal vibration, it becomes a circuit through which infinite intelligence flows. In that circuit, ideas gain power, faith gains magnitude, and creation becomes effortless law. The mastermind is not friendship, though it may contain affection. It is not counsel, though it includes wisdom. It is a spiritual covenant between minds of harmony. Each member pledges to think, feel, and act in accord with a definite purpose. The moment disharmony enters, the current breaks. The power that once multiplied dissipates into noise. Andrew Carnegie revealed the foundation of his fortune lay not merely in steel, but in men. He surrounded himself with minds that shared his faith in the future. He said, "My secret is simple. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Then trust them." But what he truly meant was deeper. Surround yourself with people whose faith equals yours, whose motives are pure, whose energy vibrates in rhythm with law. In the presence of such men, speech becomes divine. You no longer defend your ideas, you refine them. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You are understood before you finish speaking. Words in such company become keys that unlock greater wisdom. The air itself seems charged with direction. Each sentence becomes a decree to the universe, strengthened by the belief of all who hear it. The law that governs this power is simple. Two minds in harmony create a third mind, invisible but infallible. It is through this third mind that infinite intelligence expresses itself. It provides ideas no single member could have conceived. It arranges circumstances no individual could have controlled. It moves through intuition, inspired thought, and flashes of certainty carrying the signature of divinity. You may have experienced this in moments of deep unity, when two people thinking as one arrive at a conclusion neither could have reached alone. That is the whisper of the mastermind. That is the whisper of the mastermind. But when harmony is deliberate, sustained, and guided by purpose, it becomes a generator of limitless power. The first condition of a true mastermind is motive. If any man enters with selfish intent, the vibration is broken. Infinite intelligence flows only through the channel of goodwill. Greed, envy, suspicion, these are spiritual rust. They corrode connection. A mastermind thrives only where loyalty and service prevail. The second condition is secrecy. What is spoken within the mastermind must never leave it. Every plan, every confidence, every confession of weakness must remain within the circle. Secrecy is not mere courtesy. It is the wall that protects the energy of faith. Violate it once, and trust collapses. The current ceases to flow, for infinite intelligence does not dwell where loyalty has been betrayed. The third condition is definiteness of purpose. A mastermind without a shared aim is definiteness of purpose. A mastermind without a shared aim is but a gathering of voices. Each mind must contribute its power toward one objective, whether business, invention, spiritual growth, or personal development. The aim must be clear, the faith mutual, and the effort continuous. Only then does the invisible third mind awaken. The fourth condition is harmony. Harmony is not agreement on every detail. It is unity of spirit. Members may differ in method, but must remain one in motive. They must desire one another's success as their own. Any hint of jealousy or competition poisons the atmosphere. The mastermind does not tolerate pettiness, for pettiness belongs to the realm of fear, not faith. When these conditions are met, something extraordinary occurs. Thoughts no longer belong to individuals. They seem to rise out of the air itself, complete and luminous. Each member finds his own power magnified. He feels ideas pressing upon his mind, urging expression. Inspiration becomes natural, persistence effortless. Work no longer feels like toil, but obedience to law. This is why Carnegie's empire expanded beyond comprehension. He did not command his men, he united them. He created a current of faith so strong that every worker felt himself part of something eternal. Their collective belief turned steel into fortune. Their unity attracted opportunities, solutions, and allies no individual could have summoned alone. Henry Ford did the same. His inner circle of engineers formed a true mastermind. They met not to argue, but to believe together. Ford would pose a question, and though none knew the answer, they all knew it existed. Their shared conviction summoned it. When critics mocked them, their faith multiplied instead of breaking. Their harmony called forth intelligence from a higher source, and that source never failed them. This is the law where faith meets faith. God enters. Infinite intelligence does not dwell in scattered thought. It seeks unity. The moment two or more minds harmonize in faith, the universal mind begins to act through them. Their plans move with uncanny precision. Their timing becomes perfect. Obstacles dissolve before they arrive. But beware, the mastermind cannot include the untrained mind, the careless, the envious, or the doubter. These must remain outside. To include them is to invite disease into the body of purpose. They may smile, they may speak well, but if their vibration is wrong, the power will fade. It is better to have 2 minds in perfect accord than 100 in confusion. When you find such a circle, or when you create it, guard it as you would your soul. Meet regularly. Speak deliberately, regularly. Speak deliberately. Begin each meeting with silence, allowing your minds to tune to harmony. Speak only what builds. Criticize only constructively, and even then with reverence for law. End each gathering with gratitude, for gratitude is the magnet that keeps the current alive. Do not imagine that the mastermind must always be physical. You may commune with minds distant or even departed. Many of the greatest men have formed invisible councils. They would sit in solitude and imagine themselves surrounded by those whose qualities they admired. Lincoln for moral strength, Edison for imagination, Ford for persistence, Carnegie for organization. By vividly picturing these figures and conversing with them in thought, they created a mental mastermind. And from those silent meetings came genius. I have practiced this myself. Each night before sleep, I convened my invisible council. I asked questions, sought counsel, received ideas that astonished me. Whether these thoughts were born of imagination or transmitted through infinite intelligence matters not, for they worked. The results prove the reality of the law. You may do the same. Choose 6 or more figures whose traits you wish to cultivate. Study their lives until their images live vividly in your mind. Then in solitude, summon them. Ask their counsel on your problems. Listen for summon them. Ask their counsel on your problems. Listen for intuition. Write what you receive. With repetition, this practice will awaken faculties you never knew existed. It will align you with the same current of genius that guided them. The mastermind is therefore both physical and spiritual. It begins with men and extends into the infinite. Through it you may touch wisdom beyond books, power beyond experience, peace beyond understanding, but you must approach it with reverence. Treat it not as amusement, but as ceremony. Let me warn you against the counterfeit mastermind, the gathering of gossip, complaint, and idle comparison. Many groups meet under the banner of progress, but function as drains, not generators. They talk, but they do not build. They share, but they do not strengthen. Their unity is emotional, not spiritual. The true mastermind has no place for such weakness. It requires minds trained in faith and disciplined in self-control. The atmosphere of a real mastermind is unmistakable. The moment you enter, you feel uplifted. The air hums with purpose. Each member listens not to reply, but to understand. There is no pretense, no competition. Truth reigns without resistance. Time seems to expand, and ideas come effortlessly. When the meeting ends, you leave charged with energy, not drained by it. That is the sign of harmony. This is why I tell you the mastermind is the only place where you should speak freely of your plans. Outside of it, your words will fall upon misunderstanding and decay. Within it, they will take root and grow. Every sentence will become a seed planted in fertile soil, nourished by belief, guarded by loyalty, watered by encouragement. To build such a circle, begin by becoming worthy of it. Purify your motives. Eliminate envy, suspicion, and deceit. Seek to purify your motives. Eliminate envy, suspicion, and deceit. Seek to serve rather than to shine. When you become the kind of man another can trust with his dreams, you will attract others of the same nature. The law of attraction governs association as surely as it governs wealth. Once your circle forms, make this your covenant to think faithfully, to speak truthfully, to act harmoniously. Let each member become a mirror reflecting the best in the others. When one weakens, the rest will strengthen him. When one falters, the others will lift him. In this way, the mastermind becomes more than fellowship. It becomes immortality. For even when one member is gone, his spirit remains in the circle. At the end of each meeting, repeat together this remains in the circle. At the end of each meeting, repeat together this affirmation of harmony. Our thoughts are one with law. Our motives are pure. Our words create, not destroy. Infinite intelligence expresses through our unity. What we decree together must be. Say it slowly with feeling until the air vibrates with faith. You will feel the current, subtle at first, then undeniable. That vibration is power made visible. When men gather not to gossip, but to grow, not to boast, but to build, heaven itself bends low to listen, for that circle becomes a new sun, casting light into the affairs of the world. Remember always, outside of the mastermind, silence is strength. Within its speech is creation. So guard your tongue with reverence. Speak only where faith lives. And when you speak, let your words be laws unto your destiny. Speak, let your words be laws unto your destiny. Repeat this closing affirmation until it becomes the seal upon your mind. I guard my purpose as sacred flame. I speak only in harmony. My words are law because they are born of faith. I am surrounded by minds that believe, and together we create without limit. He who obeys this principle will never again scatter his power through careless talk. His silence will protect him. His speech will build worlds. For every careless word spoken to unbelief is a seed of defeat, but every word spoken in harmony with faith is a decree of destiny. Speak then only where belief reigns, and creation will. Thank you for listening until the end of the video. If you found it helpful, hit subscribe so you won't miss the next business lessons. Share your startup idea in the comments. I'd love to hear your story and learn together. See you in the next video on Listen to Get Rich.